Oh,
Sorry,
there it
I'm
goes.
late. I haven't been on time for a single thing yet today, except for
That's
my 9
okay.
o'clock meeting. I made it on time for that, and then it's just been a disaster. But welcome back to the Rabbi and the Other Guy. As usual, the other guy, Matt Schocket. I'm here with my good friend, co-host Rabbi Daniel A. Septimus. We are remote this week. It was so nice to actually see you in person.
I know it was nice, but when we're talking to someone, I guess in Jerusalem, that's a little harder to do at home
I guess that's true.
or in the building.
By the way, I missed you on Friday night. Were you celebrating the Sabbath?
Friday night, I was celebrating the Sabbath. I was also trying to make sure our boys had places to go because they had to be dropped. I think Jonah had he had a BBYO event, like a Shabbat event that he was going to. And then Ari, someone's got to take care of Ari too. So
But you missed a great game.
5 overtimes.
6
That's amazing.
overtimes. The Statesman got it wrong.
I'm fine. Amanda's like, it was 7. I said, I don't know who's right now. You're saying 7. The Statesman's saying 5. Matt
It was
Shockey says
actually
6.
6.
I thought I counted 6 actually
Yeah, it
on
was
the
6
TV.
overtimes, 42-40.
I
And we're
did
now at
watch it.
number 9 in the state.
Yeah, number 9, number 1 in the division.
Well, tied with Weiss.
Yeah, that'll be our biggest. I think that's going to be the hardest game of the season.
Be the last game of the season. Could be for all the marbles.
Yeah, we'll still make the playoffs unless they have a catastrophic
No, but we could have a home playoff game, which would be really exciting.
That would be fun. That would be fun. I heard a lot of students showed up actually to College Station for the game.
Well, I think mostly because they wanted to go out on Saturday in College Station, but they did come for the game. That is true.
My daughter said that the water in College Station is disgusting. Like it's a weird kind of texture. I don't know what she's talking about, but
I think that's Flint, Michigan.
Yeah, I did ask Nicole Gilger, who you might know, our CFO went to A&M. She said there is something weird about the water there. It's like thinner. I don't know what she was saying, but
maybe it's not the terrible Austin hard water. We have terrible water quality.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah.
So maybe that's actually good water quality, and your daughter just doesn't know that.
Probably, could be anything.
Wow, this is really interesting. I'm sure our listeners are wrapped over the water quality. And
someone's going to write us and say, I would like to give y'all a lesson on the water quality issues between Austin and College Station.
No one's going to write that. I promise you. There might be a lot of feedback. None of that's going to be it. All right. Well, let's get today's guest. We're excited to have Professor Ariela Gordon-Shaag, who is the president of Jerusalem Multidisciplinary College. I even practiced this before and I still couldn't get it right. She serves as the president of Jerusalem Multidisciplinary College, formerly Hadassah Academic College, an institution recognized for impacting society by offering innovative, career-oriented academic degrees aligned with the needs of today's job market. She holds a BA from Columbia University, somewhat controversial nowadays, and a master in science and a PhD in genetics and molecular biology from Hebrew University. She's an internationally recognized expert and fellow of the American College of Optometry, and her leadership emphasizes education, research, and social responsibility. She was a department chair before being appointed president last year. Since she assumed the presidency, she has worked to ensure that the college remains a model of mutual understanding and resilience. Following October 7th, she has upheld the college's commitment to uniting a diverse student body, including Jewish students returning from reserve duty, Haredi students, and Arab students, into a cohesive community. Ariela, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Should I call you the other guy or just Matt?
You can call me Matt or the other guy if you want. Either one works. I answer to just about anything, to be honest. You should hear like when my wife and kids call me sometimes. So, well, welcome. I'm excited to have you, or we're excited to have you. Tell us a little bit about the college. It's got a new name, right?
Right. So the college was established in the 1970s and in the late 90s, it became an academic college, Hadassah Academic College. And in February, after a long relationship with Hadassah Women Zionist Organization, both of us and them decided that we're all going in our own direction, doing what they do best. They're focusing on the hospital and empowering women, and we're educating a new generation of workers in Israel. We're, I guess you would say, compared to a large American campus, we're a small college in downtown Jerusalem We have about 5,000 students, and we're in the heart of Jerusalem. And when I say the heart of Jerusalem, I mean geographically, socially, and religiously. So we sit at the border between East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem. In West Jerusalem, there's a predominantly Jewish population. In East Jerusalem, there's a predominantly Arab population. And we sit in the border of the ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods and the non-ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods. So we really are sitting at the crossroads of a very diverse and challenging population.
Okay, and so, but your goal is to service all of these populations, is that correct?
Right. So the colleges were started in Israel in the 1990s. Higher education in Israel, and to that point, was very much an elite phenomena, with a small percent of the population getting higher education. And in the 1990s, late 1990s, the government decided to create colleges with the idea that they would be able to offer higher education to the periphery. And when I said periphery, I mean both the geographic periphery and the socioeconomic periphery. So I can tell you about our student body. 54% of our students, over half, are first generation to higher education. And our students see their academic degree as the key to enter a higher socioeconomic strata and to get a better job. So everything we teach is very much career oriented. So, we teach social work and optometry and speech pathology. We don't teach philosophy or history, which, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but many of our students can't afford to get a college degree that's not going to result in job security. And, I'm very happy to say that we have a very high retention rate. Something like 82% of our students finish their degree on time. And 90% of our students are graduates. 90% of our graduates are working in their field of study. And, we have these two almost mutually exclusive things going on. More than half the students are first generation higher education, but they're succeeding and they're getting jobs. And part of what we need to do for them to get jobs is we really need to maintain a really high academic standard. So employers in Israel know that it's worth their while to employ a graduate of our institution. So we offer the students lots and lots of support. And the support starts even before they become students. We have these pre-academic programs, and I'll just tell you about two of them. So in Jerusalem, in East Jerusalem, the population have a unique status. In 1967, there were like about 100,000 Arabs living in East Jerusalem, and they were offered at the time the option of citizenship, and they chose not to be citizens, but they became permanent residents. I guess what you would call in America like having a green card. So they can work anywhere they want. They are entitled to all the benefits of citizenship, Social Security, healthcare. They can't vote in the national elections. And they chose, for the most part, not to take the Israeli matriculation system. So they have their own high schools. Their system is something called a Taujihi. It's a Jordanian education. And they finish high school not knowing any Hebrew whatsoever. And if you don't know Hebrew in Israel, it's really hard to get a job. So we have a special 12-month preparatory program in which we teach the students in that program Hebrew. We give them academic skills that'll help them succeed in higher education. And we teach them about Israeli society because a lot of them have never met an Israeli. Even though they're living literally across the street, their forays into the western part of the city are rare. And, we teach them about both Israeli and Jewish society. And many of the graduates of this preparatory program come into our college and are some of our best students. We have another preparatory program for our ultra-Orthodox campus. So we have the second largest ultra-Orthodox campus in the country. This is part of a program started by the Israel Council of Higher Education about 12 years ago to make higher education accessible for the ultra-Orthodox population. I'm a big fan of Dr. Michael Oren, and he has said that the existential threat to Israel is the fact that the ultra-Orthodox don't work, that they're not part of the job market, and it's just not a sustainable situation. I'm just going to put it out there that, the school year started. There's 16,000 first graders in Jerusalem. Guess what percent of them are ultra-Orthodox?
60%.
Oh, over. I'll take the over.
No, only 50%. Only 50%.
I was close.
You were very close. So, as you can see, this, it's a problem. Like if these, I would say, in high school age and college age is probably a little bit less, but a significant part of the college age people in Jerusalem are ultra-Orthodox. And if they're not getting a good education, they're not going to be able to contribute to the economy. And that hurts Jerusalem and it hurts the country. So we have a special, again, the men in the ultra-Orthodox school system learn they don't have core curriculum. They don't learn English. They have rudimentary arithmetic, no higher maths. And we have, a 1-year program to teach them what they need to know to succeed in college. And these are amazing students, and they go on to become, really strong students, and they graduate and they go out into the workforce, and it's really just very moving.
And how many per year do you get of them? Sorry, of the Haredi? Right, so you're saying 50% of 8, so there's 8,000 per year per grade, right?
So, yeah, but we get a very small percent of them.
Yeah, so, like it's not a lot.
So our entire Haredi campus is like 600 students.
And and in the past, I know with other initiatives like this, I know that it takes a lot of partnership with the rabbinical, like the rabbis in the Haredi, which for our listeners is the ultra-Orthodox community. Is that the case at the college as well, that you have to partner with the rabbis and make sure they basically give their okay to say it's kosher to come to the school? Like what?
So the rabbis probably never talk to those people again. They're shunned.
So I don't want to get stereotyped into the Haredi community, but how you're not, in a lot of them, you're not supposed to have like a smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them have just, a plain old flip telephone in one pocket, which they use to talk on the phone, and they have the smartphone in the other pocket. And I think that says something about their community. So we have a partnership with an organization called Lomda, who for many years have been providing vocational training to ultra-Orthodox people. And they run this Haredi campus. We are responsible for everything academic, and they're responsible for everything else. And part of everything else is, talking to rabbis in the community and getting out the message. And, they see, the Haredi community do see higher education as a potential existential threat. I'm not saying they're right, but, in their reality.
So do many Muslims. It's amazing how aligned they are on that part.
Yeah. They see it as and so what we're trying to, our message that we get out there with the help of Lomda is that we're not trying to change the students. We're not trying to teach them, how to be secular. What we're really trying to do is to teach them a profession, how to be social workers, how to be speech pathologists, how to be optometrists, and not to change their lifestyle. So I'm going back to that cell phone. So if you ask the rabbis, should students be going to college, they'll say no.
Mm.
But when our students go to ask their rabbi, should I go to JMC's Strauss campus, the rabbis say yes.
And do they have separate male and female classes? Because I know at some schools in Jerusalem, the men come in at one time and the women come at a different time, and they're completely separated.
So yes, they have separate floors in the same campus building.
Okay.
But anything that is hands-on is completely integrated. So I'll give you an example. We have optometry. They have their lecture courses separate in that campus, but they come and they treat patients in our regular clinics, and they have to treat any patient who shows up, regardless of religion, race, gender. Again, the social work, they learn there's a men's campus, the men's classes, the women's classes, but much of the social work is on-site training and field placement, and their field placement is wherever they get placed. We do not place them in ultra-Orthodox places. They have to learn to be able to be practitioners who will be able to treat anybody. And, just think about what a great thing it is for the ultra-Orthodox community to have social workers who come from their culture and understand their unique socioeconomic, religious, and cultural background. So we see this, and many of our graduates of our medical laboratory science and our biotechnology department, they go on to study medicine. So now they're Haredi doctors, which are also giving back to their community.
That sounds like an oxymoron.
Which part? The doctor?
Haredi doctor.
So we have many graduates who go on to study medicine. And
that's amazing.
That's great. And so I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, so I apologize, but so if you look at kind of give us percentage of demographics, like, so 600 people you said are enrolled in the school who are classify themselves as Haredi or ultra Orthodox. What percentage would classify themselves as Arab, Israeli, Muslim, whatever the category, or Palestinian even?
So 30% are from the Arab minority. And I would say most of them are from East Jerusalem and identify as Palestinians. The rest of the students are Israelis, and, they've run the full gamut of Israelis from, we have lots of new immigrants, we have religious people, we have secular people. I had this group of students come to see me, and they had just been to like an international program in the Czech Republic. And it read almost like a joke. So, maybe there were like 10 students in the room. There were 5 Arab students from East Jerusalem. There was a young man who was a survivor from Kibbutz Be'eri, whose sister was murdered. There were 4 religious women, and there was a young captain who had just come back from Miluim, okay? And they all went together to the Czech Republic. And it was just an amazing conversation. So the religious women keep strict kosher. They keep strictly kosher. So we had to find them an apartment, and they brought like their own pots and pans, and they brought food. And the Muslims need to eat halal, and kosher that's a Muslim requirement. Okay, it's like their kashrut.
Their dietary restrictions. Yeah,
their dietary restrictions. So kosher food is halal. Halal is not kosher. So they all got together at the girls' apartment every night, and the girls made dinner for both the Muslims and the religious women, the religious Jewish women. And afterwards, after this program was over, they all went out and they spent a week traveling around the Czech Republic together. And one of the men, like, they came to the airport in separate cars. So one of the Jewish Israeli young men was with the guys from East Jerusalem. And when they got to the airport in the Czech Republic, they started giving the Arabs a hard time. And they said to him, "Are you with them?" He said, "Yeah, I'm with them. I'm not leaving their side." And so they gave him a hard time too. But he went through an hour-long check-in, or how do you say it?
It was
security check.
Right.
Just because he felt so close to them, he didn't want to leave them at this point.
It was like an interrogation.
Interrogation. That's right. That's what I'm trying to say. And so that's not something that you see in many other places in Israeli society.
No.
I think I could think it's for a few reasons. So first of all, the people who come to our college are very much focused on getting a career. And we believe in active learning, in which a lot of the time, instead of the lecturer standing up stage on the stage and talking, and the students writing down notes, we have the students work in groups and create their own knowledge base and do projects together. And when we can, we divide them randomly into groups. So they have to interact with each other. And, it's a beautiful thing to see. Is this going to change the world? I don't know. But I know that when our graduates leave our college, they've learned to see, Arabs and Jews have learned to see each other as human beings and as people to be respected. And they go into their professional lives and into their family lives with that attitude. And, it's our drop in the ocean to make the world a better place.
That's really nice.
That's so interesting.
I was just going to say real quick, you used the word miluim earlier, which I want to make sure our listeners know is reserve service, which unfortunately the soldiers have been called up, I know, multiple times to come back for reserve service for the wars that now it's in Gaza exclusively, but I know with the Hezbollah war, the Iranian war, things like that.
So I'm a mother of 5 children, and my older 2 sons are both students and have been in reserve duty. One has done, since October 7th, 420 days of reserve duty, and the other one has done almost 400 days of reserve duty. And I could tell you that at our college campus, we have, in the 2 years since the war, the 2 academic years, the first year we had like 500 students in reserve duty, the second year like 450. All but 10 or 11 finished the year successfully.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Wow.
And it's because we, as a campus, there's, and so in Hebrew is a sav shmona is a call to reserve duty. It's an emergency call to reserve duty. So when the war broke out, we said our emergency call to reserve duty is to help our reservist soldiers, and no reservist is going to be left behind. And it's extra tutoring, and we have professors who will stay up all night with the soldiers and help them, tutor them. It's not like they're all coming back at the same time. Okay. It's not like you could say, okay, we'll have another summer course for them. It's really designing a special program for each and every reservist so that they could get both the educational and emotional support that they need in order to complete their academic journey. And, it's one of the things I have to say that I'm the proudest of. And I could just tell you a few stories. Last year at the graduation ceremony, we had a reservist who was in the computer science program. Now, computer science, again, is not philosophy. It's really intense. And he was injured. And he woke up in the hospital and he said, I'm a nerd. The first thing I asked is, can I still code? Do my hands work? And our professors went to visit him in his rehab hospital and taught him the material. And he was able to finish on time. And he was the speaker at the graduation ceremony representing the students.
Amazing.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, they're just story after story. And we have a dean's list. The dean's list is the top, I don't remember, 2%, 5%, I don't remember, of the students. And 30% of the students on the dean's list were reservists. So I think that shows both something about their resilience, and it also shows something about the kind of support they're getting. I could tell we have almost every program we have is a lot of hands-on, either clinical training or labs, and we had to be very creative. So, for example, in social work and in optometry and in communication disorders, they're mandated by the government to do a certain amount of clinical training. And so what we did is we mapped out clinical training sites that are near where these reservists were serving. And they would do things like spend 5 days in reserve duty and then do 2 days of clinical training at a site that's close to where they were serving. And, it really required a lot of flexibility on everyone's part, including the Army that was willing to let them off for a few days a week to do their clinical training. And they were able to finish.
That's really great because, I know it's interrupting Israeli society like crazy with the reservists. And so the fact that these kids were able to complete their schooling really means that at some point, if and when this war finally ends, maybe soon, depending on what happens in the next couple of days.
Please God.
Yeah, these kids will be able to resume a normal life and go out and get a job.
Amen.
Right. And normal is, normal is, I guess, as normal does, but they're coming back with PTSD. They see terrible things. They're not the same. I could tell you about my sons and I could tell you about our students. They're not the same people they were when they went out. And so, yes, hopefully they'll be able to resume life, but it's not the same.
Yeah, I think Daniel and I, before we even started this pod, we heard about this, November of 2023, right, Daniel? The need for the therapists and the need for everybody and the trauma that society has gone through. They had recognized it even then, right? And now it's 2 years almost later, and the trauma has continued in a different form. And so, yes, at some point, the entire society, I think, is going to have to overcome this trauma to the extent that they can.
Right. So I'll tell you what we're doing on a macroscopic level. So, since our mission is to get our students into the job market, we have to be very much in touch with what's going on in the job market. And even before October 7th, we were aware that there was a terrible shortage in Israel of healthcare and mental care professionals.
Not just Israel.
Not just Israel, but there was a terrible problem, which has become much, much, much worse since October 7th. On a physical level, 16,000 soldiers have been injured in rehab.
Wow.
In terms of mental health, you have the soldiers, you have the displaced people. 150,000 people have been displaced. And so we are establishing a school of rehabilitative healthcare, which is going to have our existing departments. It's going to have social work and psychology, optometry and speech pathology, and the Dan Department of Creative Human Design. And this department is an industrial design department who has been collaborating with rehab centers for years. I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. And so those are our existing departments. And we are now working on opening a department of physical therapy. And again, that came from the hospitals before October 7th. They said there wasn't enough physical therapists. The CEO of Hadassah Hospital said, let's open up a physical therapy department together. And we're also asking for a master's program in psychology, focusing on rehabilitative psychology, and a master's program in social work, focusing on community trauma. And we believe that having all these diverse healthcare and allied healthcare departments under one roof are going to allow us to have a kind of multidisciplinary type of teaching and learning for our students and care for our patients. When a person comes in with a rehabilitative problem, they don't just need a physical therapist. They could also need a social worker, and they might need a psychologist, and they might need an optometrist. And so this is going to allow us to train our students to be the type of clinicians who are going to be able to work with other clinicians and treat the patients in a much more holistic way.
Yeah, it's incredible to hear. And I'm sure the need is going to be there when they get back.
Yeah, and the need is already there because,
Yeah.
And there's so many levels of trauma. I could tell you, think about a young mother with 3 little kids whose husband hasn't been home, and she doesn't know if he's alive. She doesn't know if he's dead. That's one type of trauma. The soldiers themselves, the displaced people. Everybody knows someone who's been killed. Everyone knows someone who's been kidnapped. Everyone knows someone who was in the Nova Festival. So there's really a lot. There are many, many different levels and circles of trauma going on, and the need is there. So we're trying to step up and do something about it.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. A lot of us here in America are wondering, what can we do to help? And I think several people have traveled over to Israel, solidarity missions and whatnot. And then I guess from your perspective, what is the type of support that matters most to Israelis today?
So first of all, I think the solidarity missions are amazing. I can tell you, like during the first month after the war, I was in a workshop for academics. And, we had to put up like a little virtual sticky note of things that make us feel better. And almost everyone wrote support from people from abroad. Just reaching out and saying, look, we're thinking about you. We know you're doing, you have a hard time. We're there for you is really important. I would also say that, people don't really know what's going on in Israel. Anything you could do to get out what's really going on here is so helpful for us because, people think that, I don't want to get into politics, but the Israeli army is the most humane army in the world. They're doing everything they can so innocent citizens are not hurt. And this results in a lot of loss of life and injury for our soldiers, but we do it because it's the right thing to do. On the other hand, we have to protect our people. We have to protect the people who live in Israel. I don't want to defend the government and I don't want to condone the government, but anything that you could do to spread the word about what's going on in Israel and do something against the boycott, because, I could tell you in academia, we're definitely experiencing a boycott, would be great. But really the show of solidarity is really, really touching to us, and we all appreciate it very much.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there a couple of times. I know Daniel's been, I think, a couple of times since then. My wife is getting ready to go in January, although she seems to have like a black cloud every time she plans a trip. Something bad happens, so you may not want her, but we'll see.
It's true.
Daniel, are you going in November?
I was going to go, but we couldn't get anyone to go. So we need to like spread this message that Israel wants people to come and experience it.
To see what's going on, to And you have an open invitation to come visit us at Jerusalem Multidisciplinary College and see for yourselves what's going on there. I think it'll be very, people think Israel's this apartheid state. And I say, wow, just come to the campus and you can see the interactions between the Arab and the Jewish students, and you realize this isn't an apartheid state.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
can tell
think.
you. Yeah,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
what?
Oh, I
No,
was
go
going to
ahead.
say most people who have been to Israel and go with preconceived notions but an open mind come back with very different opinions when they return.
I can tell
Those
you
who
that.
want to be convinced of what they believe can find it, but if you go with an open mind, you will generally come back changed in a positive way.
So, there was something like 50,000 displaced people living in hotels in Jerusalem after October 7th, and many of them had to like flee without basic things like their glasses or their ocular meds. And so our optometry department opened up the clinics offering free eye exams and free glasses to any displaced people in Jerusalem who wanted to come. Now, many of the students that department are Arab and many of them are Palestinians. And you would think that that might lead to tension. We were worried. And so we created a workshop for all our students and all our faculty in how to treat people who had undergone trauma. And it went over beautifully. In those first months, we treated something like 500 patients, and there were no incidences, and the students, the Palestinian students, the Jewish students, they treated the displaced people with respect, and it was just a beautiful thing to see.
That's great. So, that's an interesting story for us to hear, I think, in this moment when you kind of hear such negative media publicity coming out. What are you hearing from your Arab students or your Palestinian students about the war? Like, do you have to process things with them, at the college, or is that done outside of the college space?
So in the beginning, we did. Like right after October 7th, we reached out to all our students. We called every single student on campus.
Wow.
Well, they weren't on campus. We called every single student
Who is enrolled in
in our program, and we had online workshops for them. I know that some of them have family who live in Gaza. It's their people. It's very hard for me to see what's going on there. It's certainly very hard for them to see what's going on there. It's not an easy situation for anybody. They had things in the beginning, they didn't understand why Jews were walking around with guns. Well, if you're in reserve duty, you have to walk around with your rifle all the time. Even if you could get off for a few days and go to college, you have to take your rifle with you. We had to explain that to them.
That's interesting. That's a normal. I see, rifles at bus stops all the time in Israel. It's just a normal thing. But I guess they're not used to being in Israel.
You're in the western part of the city.
Right. That's right. So, and they probably don't come over to the west side of the city ever. They're only on the east side or in their own neighborhoods, and so it's foreign to them to see that.
That's right. That's right. Exactly right.
Yeah. So do you follow these kids after graduation? Because it seems to me that this is a model for how Israeli Arab relationship could be better in the future, right? I mean, and so do you follow these kids after they graduate, and do they integrate more into society together? Because like Israel's sort of integrated and not integrated all at the same time, and if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. But like, is there more integration with these kids that go to these programs?
So a lot of so we have everything that's in healthcare, and healthcare in Israel is completely integrated.
Right.
And so yes, we follow our students. We have a survey every year to see what they're, at least for the past 3 years. And as I said, 90% are working in their field of study, including the students from East Jerusalem. I was the chair of the Department of Optometry for many years, And so I'm in touch with our graduates, and I see them at conferences, and I run into them, you know, in optic shops, and they're very much, you know, I see the Arab graduates, I see the Jewish graduates, and they're very much integrated, at least in the work world. I can tell you that one of our Arab graduates, when we were giving out those free glasses, donated, he has like an optic shop, and he donated frames for the displaced people.
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, if only healthcare could be a model for the rest of the country. I mean, I've worked in the hospital up north, right? And you go into the emergency room there, and it looks like a big multidisciplinary center where everybody kind of, you know, just gets along. And then you leave, and it's not exactly like that outside the hospital. So
That's right. That's right. But at least in that one place, people know how to interact with each other.
Correct.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we can leave it there. It was really interesting talking to you. Thank you for coming on. I think you're doing amazing work.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Daniel. It was really nice
Yeah,
talking
no,
to you
you're
too.
doing incredible work, and we need to tell more stories like you did to our community. So hopefully people will listen to this podcast. Maybe you'll get inspired to say, hey, Daniel, okay, let's get that mission trip going, that solidarity trip again.
So can I end with two students of mine who are graduating this year who I just find completely inspiring?
Sure.
One's name is Mahmoud Zaid, and he is from East Jerusalem, and like from the worst neighborhoods in East Jerusalem. And he was literally working as a street cleaner on Nevi'im Street, where our college is. And you know, he would drive by the college, and one day one of his friends said, you know, come with me, I want to go see what's going on there. And he enrolled, and he is just an exceptional student. And, you know, he got this award this year for community service. And he came to see me. He runs this program called Oasis in the Desert, in which we take Arab students and Jewish students and we give them a project to do together. And the idea is that they talk to each other and they do something together. And his partner was this kid named Kfir Shabo. And Kfir grew up in, you know, like a group home, you know, not foster care, but like he was taken out of the home and he was in a group home. And he finished the army, and he had to start working. And he was working in Hadassah Hospital in like the storage of their operating rooms. And he kind of hit the ceiling that he could get to in terms of advancing without a degree. And he came to our college. Okay. And, you know, they both came to me, and Mahmoud said about Kfir, he's not my friend, he's my brother. And, you know, they're just really both inspiring. Kfir, despite all this, was on the dean's list every year he was in the college. Mahmoud went from being a participant in this Desert Oasis program to running the Desert Oasis program. And I'm just certain that these people are going to go out and make the world a better place.
Wow. It's a beautiful story.
Yeah. We need more of that.
We do. We do. Please. Thank you for the work you're doing.
And thank you for having me. It was great talking to you. And you know, I'm welcome to, you know, you're invited to come visit us whenever you're in the neighborhood.
Definitely take you up on it. And we know it's almost midnight in Jerusalem. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you for staying up.
You can go out for some drinks close to your college now, you know, at the Russian Quarter, you know, just south of there.
Yeah, exactly. And
thank you. Good
morning to you as well.
Yeah, and some call. Hope you have a
thank you
easy pass, but a meaningful one too. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for listening. And we'll see if Daniel fasts. That'll be the question when we find out next week on the Rabbi and the Other Guy.